Yes. Welcome back to another episode, another edition of Go Long Live. I am your host, Barry Long II, not the first, not the third. I am the second. We are live on today'scalifornia.com, CoachellaValley.com. We are live also on today'scanada.com. We are all over the Twitterverse, all over the metaverse, all over the universe. We appreciate everybody for tuning in, everybody for commenting, everybody for being a part of the show. This is an interactive national sports show for CoachellaValley.com. And that discusses the top stories and events in sports. So we appreciate you for joining us. And without any further ado, let me bring in my main man, Rudy Ramon Reyes. Rudy, how you doing, boss?
Hey, man, I'm doing a lot better than yesterday. I can tell you that.
Doing a lot better than for sure, man.
A little salty yesterday, a little, but today, no, not so much. Feeling better. Thanks.
For sure. I can't see you right here on the camera. Let me try to see if we can take you away and bring you back in. Something going on with your feed?
No, I'm good. Camera's on. I'm on.
Okay.
I'm live. Oh, we'll just roll with it until I can figure it out. So it's
okay. Sounds good. Well, we got a lot to talk about today. Today we're going to talk about. First, we're going to talk about Ben Roethlisberger. He has officially retired. We saw Ben Roethlisberger announce that earlier this morning. He is officially done. We knew that he was done after pretty much when the game first started. There you go. You're popped up on the screen now. All right. So yeah, we're going to talk about Ben Roethlisberger retiring. We're also going to talk about the Broncos. They've hired a head coach. So have the Chicago Bears. We're going to break down the Rams-Niners game. We're also going to break down the situation that just continues to evolve between Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan. We've seen these guys go head-to-head, ever since they not play together. And it seems like the relationship is fractured. We saw The Last Dance. Most of us saw The Last Dance documentary, and it was just terrible what we saw in the way that Scottie Pippen was portrayed in certain aspects of that documentary. And the way that he responded to that documentary was terrible. And it just keeps getting worse and worse. So Charles Oakley, who has firsthand knowledge of that kind of quarrel between those two guys, he has spoken out, and there was a story on TMZ that we're going to talk about. But without any further ado, let's jump off and let's talk about some of these moves that have been made inside of the NFL. Of course, we knew that Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, we were going to talk about it more yesterday, but we didn't really get a chance to go into detail about it. But he has been hired by the Minnesota Vikings as the GM manager, and he is becoming one of the latest African-American guys to be tabbed for this position as GM. We saw Ryan Poles being tabbed for the GM position in the Chicago Bears. What are your thoughts about Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, real quick, being hired by the Vikings?
This guy is a pure intellect, okay? He has done this in multiple capacities for various NFL teams, has had a lot of success doing this, and it doesn't really surprise me that you've seen Spielman and Mike Zimmer, former head coach of the Vikings, exit in lieu of getting exactly who was meant to be, as they stated in the Star Tribune, based on the guy that they wanted. So this is the person they've been looking at, scouting for some time. Apparently he didn't know it. Most of the time, we don't know if we're being scouted by SiriusXM or somebody else for that matter. So we're always being looked at. He was being looked at as well. And so I think they got the right man for the job. Adolfo-Mensah has had all the traits in leadership, professionalism, football IQ, people IQ. He's the right man for the job, no doubt about it.
Absolutely. And he was a part of the Cleveland Browns front office that was so great at evaluating talent, brought in a lot of different talent, free agent wise and through the draft. So shout out to Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah being hired. Now we found out that the Denver Broncos have hired the former Packers offensive coordinator, Nathaniel Hackett. He has now been hired as the head coach for the Denver Broncos, and it's an interesting move. We know that Nathaniel Hackett has been the offensive coordinator for the Green Bay Packers since 2019. He's been the offensive coordinator in other places. He was in Jacksonville before. He was in the Bills back in 2013. He's been around the league in some capacity since 2006 and has worked his way up to get to this point. A lot of people are happy for the fact that the Broncos decided to go with an offensive-minded head coach rather than a Dick Fangio type of situation or a Vance Joseph type situation. They went out and got an offensive guy who knows a lot about Aaron Rodgers in particular, and that is who they seem to be targeting. Ever since Peyton Manning has left the Denver Broncos, they have not had great stability at the quarterback position. And hell, even when Peyton Manning was the quarterback of the Broncos, he wasn't that stable back there anyway with his neck and some of the games that he has. A lot of people would argue that the defense was the reason why they won a championship. But they have not had stability nonetheless at that position since Peyton Manning's been there. And now that we see Aaron Rodgers potentially maybe leaving Green Bay, this seems to a lot of people that this move by the Denver Broncos kind of doesn't ensure that Aaron Rodgers is their quarterback next year, but it does mean that they are trying to get that to become the reality.
Well, it certainly doesn't rule that out as a possibility. Anything is possible. We've seen the NFL do various things that just make our minds say, what? How did that happen? Did we miss something? Did we blink a little too fast? One thing about Hackett is that he's a California guy. So he's been around for a while. You mentioned the Jags. And by the way, on their way, on the Duval way, they decided to pick up Vic Fangio for an interview. Just saying. So between him and Leftwich, should either one of those guys could be the next head coach for the Jaguars. But back to Hackett for half a minute. He started out as a quality control guy in 2006 with the Tampa Bay Bucks. So he started a long time, 9 seasons. He went back to Syracuse for just a minute, came back to the NFL, and ultimately the offensive coordinator and 3 years in his current role. So he knows what he's doing. I think Aaron Rodgers would probably be best suited because, again, this is a dialed-up Hackett offense, right? Aaron Rodgers takes the lead guy under center, granted, but the guy who calls those types of plays. I think Aaron Rodgers could end up following Hackett. I'm not saying he will, but he has the propensity for word salad to sell himself to go somewhere else. And, whether or not Aaron Rodgers is linked to this, if there's any link, any correlation whatsoever, we won't know that. I'd say that you're going to see maybe at least 30 days before anything like that happens. And it could happen before the NFL draft.
Yeah, and Aaron Rodgers has come out and said that he's going to make his decision because he understands that he is one of the biggest chips to fall. And once he falls, then other people will start making decisions on where they're going to go. Particularly Devontae Adams, who is going to be a free agent and is going to have an opportunity to go out and explore making a lot of money or explore making the right decision and playing with the team that he can win a championship with. And who knows, he might go to Denver if Aaron Rodgers goes to Denver. But I certainly think that Nathaniel Hackett was a good pickup for the Denver Broncos. Like I mentioned earlier, always picking defensive-minded head coaches. It's time that they get somebody in there that knows what they're doing and can run an offense. And the relationship with Nathaniel Hackett and Aaron Rodgers has been very close. And a lot of people are giving Matt LaFleur the credit for calling the plays. But this is Nathaniel Hackett's offense. And Matt LaFleur certainly has a part in the structure of the offense and what goes on. But Nathaniel Hackett is the one that's really pulling the trigger. So he's
a design master. He's a design master. And without him, you wouldn't have that offense. And Matt LaFleur would be standing there on the sideline scratching his head. What do we do, George? What do we do?
Yeah, for sure. And the one thing about it is that relationship with Hackett and Aaron Rodgers goes a long way. And I think
it does. It go very, very long way, all the way to Denver. It could happen. It's going long. It's possible. Now think about this. Going long live. This is where we're at right now, ladies and gentlemen. Yes. I think more importantly, this is about who the quarterback's going to be in the future for the Denver Broncos. We've seen Drew Lock kind of find his way a little bit further this year than we had in years past as he was drafted. I don't know that he's the guy. I don't know that he's taken that next step. I think it's really going to take an offensive genius, and it could be Hackett's design to really pull Drew Lock in to learn his offense, which could very well suit Drew Lock's methodology when he's on the field, when it comes to reading plays, when it comes to understanding plays, being able to diagnose and easily palletize Hackett's calling in regards to offensive play calls. So Drew Lock could be the guy. I guess that really depends on whether or not Hackett becomes that guy to mentor Drew Lock. If not, they're going to be looking in the NFL draft for their next quarterback. And they could actually do that anyway.
In my opinion, they've already seen enough from Drew Lock. I've seen enough from Drew Lock. I mean, I know Drew Lock he's got some of the physical characteristics and abilities that are necessary in this league, but for some reason his decision making just does not seem to get better. And
a quality backup.
He's a great quality backup.
Bridgewater's the same thing.
Yeah,
Bridgewater is an FA. He's also going to be a top quality But again, one of those head scratchers thinking, Teddy, what are you doing? Why are you throwing the ball in double coverage? How do you do those things? You only have a certain amount of quarterbacks in the NFL, Barry, that will allow for you to sit back on the sideline as a head coach and gasp a sigh of relief because he made the right check down read, right? So
absolutely.
Guys that will no longer have that capability is Ben Roethlisberger announced his retirement today. 39 years of age, holds records that may or may not be broken ever. He's one of those guys that's going to be missed under center. A lot of former Steelers went online at Steelers.com and at their own, using their own time frame to discuss, their thoughts about him, how they enjoyed playing with him, from Heath Miller to, oh my gosh, Vance McDonald was the other guy. Ramon Foster, whom I had the pleasure of interviewing once when he was an actual player, and now he's on radio in Arizona somewhere. Go figure. But he's retiring today. This means a lot. This means a lot for Pittsburgh. What are they going to do? Is that Kenny Pickett pick going to be the pick that's in, or the not so pick for Kenny Pickett in the NFL draft? I guess we'll have to see how that works out. But Ben Roethlisberger retiring today. He's going to spend some time with his family, really dig deep, and really get into retirement mode, whatever that means. And if that entails playing golf, I don't know if that's like the thing that you do is play golf when you retire. I don't know.
I mean, some people play golf. Yeah, some people play golf. Some people go to Vegas. But and some people go to Vegas and play golf in Vegas.
I play golf, exactly.
But Ben Roethlisberger definitely seems like a guy that that it's a great time to call it quits. And you wish a guy like him could go out on top and win a championship and retire, at the podium. But at the same time, he has won two rings, and he's put up some numbers. Look at his career stats right here. Okay, he's got 5,444 completions. He's got over 64,000 passing yards, over 400 touchdowns. The man has done it all. The man has played with some of the greats, and he's dealt with a lot of adversity as well. We've seen him, deal with some of these crazy players. He had a championship team, a championship roster a few years ago with Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell, the Killer Bees, as they called them, and they just could not get on the field together. And and there was just a lot of stuff that he has been through, ups and downs, ebbs and flows that have gone through that throughout his career. But
injuries, are you kidding me? Injuries. Oh man,
injuries. Oh my goodness,
Roethlisberger. That's unbelievable. But to your point about Antonio Brown, I hate bringing news like this back to the forefront. Unfortunately, he continues to find a way to stay in the news. I guess that's how you stay relevant, right? Either you have a radio show or you find yourself in the news, one or the other. But Antonio Brown, a couple things about him. First of all, he was interviewed by former NFL wide receiver Nate Burleson, and
it's on CBS.
I don't know Nate all that well, but we do follow each other on social media. I've tried to schedule him to come on the RudeDogShow.com, but he's obviously too busy for that because he's on. You're right, CBS Sunday morning.
Shout out to Nate Burleson.
Yeah. You go, Nate. You go. You do you. Keep doing you. But he interviewed. I mean, literally interviewed, sat down, had a heart-to-heart conversation with Antonio Brown. It's kind of hard to palletize and really kind of digest the verbiage and how he was talking and what he was saying and how he was saying it to really get me to understand his mentality. He uses the word axe instead of ask. There's a lot of euphemisms in the way that he talks.
That's Scottie.
I'm just saying that. No, I'm just saying that if you're going to have an intelligent conversation with a guy like Nate Burleson, you better study up. I'm just saying. He doesn't have.
Nate Burleson is an incredibly intelligent guy. He's well-rounded. He's well-versed on a lot of different subjects. He was so good on the NFL Network on Good Morning Football. That so good that he still, he has an open chair anytime he wants. But his role on CBS is amazing. I think that him, he does speak with a strong vocabulary, strong vernacular, and Antonio Brown. I feel like, of course we know that he said that he's from the pit and most therapists are from the palace, and I get that. He comes from a lower income, lower class, if you will, family structure situation than a lot of the guys that he encounters with, on a day in day out basis. Now there are guys in the NFL that have come from worse situations than Antonio Brown come from. So it doesn't mean that Antonio Brown is gets this pass or whatever for acting in a certain way. But I understand where he's coming from in the sense where he is not like everybody else. He values things differently, and I think that his lack of professionalism is really a big issue, a big problem. And maybe there's got to be some mental issues going on upstairs too. There has to be. For him to say that he's got mental wealth, that kind of made me laugh, because I mean, they're asking you if you have mental health issues, and you say, no, I've got mental wealth. It's rather than saying, hey, I think it's more believable if he would have said, hey, you know what, I do have some mental health issues, or I do have some issues that go on. But this situation wasn't that. This situation was me getting upset and me walking off the job.
Sure.
I think that would have been received better. And I think that Antonio Brown has a tough time articulating himself. And that is what a lot of times gets lost in the sauce.
Exactly. Well, not only that, it's about translation. So the translation of his euphemisms and so on could be related in some manner. I'm not saying it is purely, but could be related to CTE, could have signs of not being able to articulate the way that he needs to be able to articulate, to be able to converse, to have those types of in-depth conversations. For him, it's all on the surface. It's below the surface is what's going to help him recognize, if he gets to that point, to hit the bottom of the rock, to get back up and recognize that he needs help at the end of the day. You showed that graphic about Antonio Brown being linked to the Ravens. Look, we tried this he tried this last year. Okay. There was workout video of him receiving balls from Lamar Jackson. Okay. This is, I'll be honest with you, this is all about to do for nothing, because Jim Harbaugh going into an extension year, which he did get extended, by the way.
Shout out to Harbaugh.
Yeah. Harbaugh certainly deserved it with all the adversities and things that he had to face in the offseason, regular season, before the season, during the season. I mean, the guy just been through heck and back. Wouldn't surprise me if he was a coach of the year. But when you look at Antonio Brown and the fact he wants to be a Raven and X, Y, and Z and ABC, they already have one guy that's related to him that causes no issues, no
Marquise
problems.
Brown. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And that's his cousin. So you don't want a double Browner, right? You want a
double fudge brownie.
Double fudge brownie. You don't want that. You have one with a cold cup of milk, and the other one needs to sit on the sidelines and find out
let me ask you this, Rudy. We are going on live. I am Barry Long II. He is Rudy Reyes. We are live on CoachEllaValley.com. Let me ask you this, okay? Because he has been linked to the Baltimore Ravens. He puts this picture right here up on his social media, on his stories, aspects of his Facebook, Instagram. And he's basically saying that, first of all, Ed Oliver has that number 84 on. I'm a Ravens fan. So that number jersey is not available. But he has been linked to the Ravens in the past. Before he went to the Patriots, the Ravens expressed interest in bringing him in. He has a great relationship with Lamar Jackson. He does have a great relationship with his younger cousin, Marquise Brown. Now, whether or not Marquise Brown and Lamar Jackson have a good enough relationship with Antonio Brown to calm him down and to really get through to him, that type of rapport, I don't think so. I think that Antonio Brown is his own man, and I think that he has such a strong personality to where if Hollywood Brown went over to him and said, "Yo, man, calm down. Lamar's gonna get you the ball," I think he would tell him to shut the hell up. and I think that he would treat him like his little cousin in that situation. Sure. Lamar Jackson, them being from the same hometown, the same area, them having that kind of connection, they've worked out in the offseason. I think that Lamar Jackson would have a little bit better rapport with Antonio Brown. But let's not forget that the Ravens, what do we do the most, Baltimore fans? We run the football a lot, and we throw to the tight ends the most out of any team in the NFL. And we throw to the wide receivers the least amount of times out of any team in the NFL. So
unless you're a slant wide receiver, and then you're the guy who gets the ball if it's not a tight end on the other side.
And the Ravens fans would love to have a guy like Antonio Brown with this route running and with the production that he puts on the field We would love to have a guy like
Oh,
that because
sure.
we've really never had a viable number one receiver who was just a dominant guy ever in the history of the Ravens since I can remember in his prime. So, the Ravens would love to have that production, but at the end of the day, what it would cost in the locker room, what it potentially could cost as far as the chemistry and tearing guys apart and creating cliques and all this stuff, I'm just not sure that it is worth it, even though you have a great relationship with Lamar Jackson. So if Antonio Brown didn't have any incentives in his contract, he came with a minimal contract. There were clauses where the Ravens could just cut him at any time and not have to deal with paying him or deal with being sued. I think that maybe John Harbaugh could be the guy that says, "Hey, I can revive his career. I can get something. I can get the most out of AB. I do think that he'll play in the NFL again at some point.
I'm on the other end of that spectrum. I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no. He's been too cancerous. He's had too many issues. He had taken a relationship that he had with Tom Brady and basically flushed it down the toilet because he tried throwing Tom Brady under the bus. Do you think Tom Brady is going to give him a sign of, I'm going to sign off on this guy in order for him to get to that next level? The answer is no. Absolutely not. There's no way that you're going to get a guy who has been the team obliterator, as I've called him many, many times before, because that's really who he is and what he is. And I don't foresee him doing anything at all positive for any NFL team that would give him an opportunity. He's given a black eye now. This Bucs suit is really like ramping up and building up steam for what?
And that could really potentially hurt him moving forward.
Exactly.
Because what NFL team wants to sign a guy they know they might get sued by?
Exactly.
Things don't go right. So
legal ramifications from a guy who can't keep his mouth shut, who can't keep his actions to himself. He needs to find out he has an interpersonal relationship before he has an intrapersonal relationship. Those two are different. He needs to recognize it before an NFL team will give him a shot.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that I think that he deserves to be on an NFL team. I just want to clarify that. I'm just saying that I think that at some point in the next 2 years, somebody's going to say, you know what, let's roll the dice with this guy because we need a wide receiver. And I think it'll be somebody who takes pride in trying to revive guys' career and their reputation.
I'm telling you who it's not going to be. It's not going to be the USFL.
He might end up
already tweeted and said, no, we're going to pass Antonio Brown.
Wow. That's insane. The USFL doesn't want you.
If they don't want you, you may as well go try to play in Canada. They would love you up there, eh?
I'm pretty sure they'll give him a shot in Canada. Any struggling football league would be desperate to have a former NFL player that brings NFL eyeballs to their screen, and they still don't want Antonio Brown. That should tell you a lot, man. This picture right here should have told them a lot from the beginning. We are going on live. I am Barry Long II. He is Rudy Reyes. We are live on CoachellaValley.com. We are live on todayscalifornia.com and todayscanada.com. Now, let me ask you this real quick. Aaron Rodgers, real quick, I wanted to ask you whether or not you believe that him going to Denver will be a great move just because of the fact that he does have now Nathaniel Hackett, his former OC, as a head coach. But when you look at that division, it's a tough division. The Broncos, the NFC West, you've got a guy named Patrick Mahomes there. You've got a guy named Justin Herbert there. You've also got a guy named Derek Carr, who, although he's faced some criticism, is still a pretty good quarterback. He's still at least middle of the pack. So what do you think? Do you think this would be a great move for him to go to Denver?
You know what? I think Denver fans are really chomping at the bit and hoping that Hackett inclusion, being the next head coach for the Broncos, will lure. It's kind of like having the right bait on the right hook, getting Aaron Rodgers there to Denver. Could that be the case? We don't know. What kind of numbers Green Bay would want to, kind of show good faith towards Aaron Rodgers and good faith toward that contract remains to be seen. We don't really know what that's going to look like, but I know this. If Aaron Rodgers comes over, you're going to see more issues. He's going to get into the cannabis industry. You're going to see,
he's already in the cannabis industry.
Rodgers industry.
Look at that hair.
He's going to have with his hands. He's going to a rock concert with that hand.
Oh my God.
I'll just say. So, I mean, if Aaron Rodgers is going to make that move, it's got to be for the right reasons. And obviously he knows that. He doesn't know what those reasons are quite yet. I think he's still trying to figure out what inoculation is. versus,
Aaron Rodgers has so
uh,
many. He gets a pass a lot of times too, I think. I
of
mean, because
course he does.
he's lied to the public. He's come out and he's done a couple of questionable
He's won the
things in the last
Super
couple of years.
Bowl.
Yeah.
He's on State Farm commercials. I mean,
Yeah, he's everywhere. He's everywhere.
yeah, he's everywhere. He doesn't need the
Yeah.
double check down anymore, but how that goes.
All right. And also now let's real quick, let's break down this game before we talk about Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan, because that's going to be we have a couple minutes to break down the game, and we'll break it down even more next episode tomorrow. But the 49ers and the Rams will be facing off in the NFC Championship this Sunday at 3:30 Pacific time, and we've got a real good showdown between two teams that have faced twice. They face twice each year. They're in the same division, but the last 6 times these two teams have faced off, the 49ers own the Rams. They beat them all the last 6 times. And this is even if Jimmy G is the quarterback or Nick Mullins is the quarterback, doesn't matter who the running backs are. All that matters is that when Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay face off, Sean McVay seems to always continue to lose to his former coworker in Kyle Shanahan. What do you think about this game, and how do you think it's going to play out?
I like Jimmy Garoppolo's chances in here. He is 6-0 versus the Rams. So let's talk about that for a minute. It's not the prettiest thing to be 6-0, but what's really pretty is the fact that he's won every single start that he's played against the Rams. So and that started in 2019. So he's gone on the run. Of course, with Nick Mullins, he won that game 23-20. For some reason, 49ers continue to have the number for the LA Rams. I don't care if they were in St. Louis, the St. Louis Rams for that matter, but Garoppolo's numbers aren't exactly fantastic. They're not beautiful. He's completed almost 70% of all of his passes against, but barely above an average that he's maintained throughout entering the league at like 68%. So something about this mismatch and where Jimmy Garoppolo kind of struggles is the long passes, the deep passes, recognizing coverage in those throws before he throws them, and recognizing there are other possibilities during those checkdowns from tight ends or maybe in a slot receiver for that matter. But what's really interesting, the Rams now have a 70% chance of beating the 49ers late in the game, which they have done every single time that they faced them. So this is almost a 7-point swing headed into the fourth quarter. I do like the 49ers in this game. I'm not going to lie. I do like how they've been playing all year long. We talked about this yesterday with the two-headed monster back there. We've seen what this looked like back when Matt Ryan had 2 running backs, Devontae Freeman, and Coleman in the backfield, making this a 1-2 punch for Atlanta. But I think that when you look at the 49ers, they just have a little bit more momentum. They have a slightly better quarterback than who Matt Ryan is, right? We're talking about the NFC. And I do like how Garoppolo likes to lead them down the field to get them a chance to win. And we've seen that against, teams late throughout the regular season. So this is going to be interesting. Now, Cooper Kupp, on the other hand, has struggled against the Niners because of coverage. All credit to Cooper Kupp, and I'll give him all the props that he's due. Matter of fact, he won Offensive Player of the Year this morning, I believe. And he's been fantastic throughout the regular season, no doubt about it. But he's struggled. He's only he only targeted 20 times, and in 18 of those, only 240 yards, give or take. So I think it's really about what the Rams are going to do to ensure that Cooper Kupp does not have that advantage defensively to gain a lot of yards after the catch, or what we know as a yak. So this is going to be an interesting game. I really think it's going to be, and we're going to break it down tomorrow more so, but I think this is about where Jimmy Garoppolo needs to be the guy to make the best decision, because the first one with the wrong mistake is going to lose the game.
Yes,
and that's what it boils down to.
Absolutely, I agree, and I'm on the other side of the fence. I like the Rams in this game, although it has been a demolition series between these two, and the Rams have never been able to just seem to win and seal the deal, even though they were up 17-0 against them this past week 18. This past week 18 game, they still lost the game. So it just seems like they have their number, but we'll break this game down more tomorrow as we get closer and closer to the NFC Championship as well as the AFC Championship. Now, real quick, let's talk about we got about 5 minutes left. Let's talk about this controversy that's been going on between Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. Now, Charles Oakley came out. There was a report on TMZ that said that Charles Oakley basically does not see Jordan and Pippen ever being friends again. And we know that Scottie Pippen had a big issue with the way that he was portrayed in the documentary, The Last Dance, the 10-episode long documentary that was shown on ESPN. It's now available on Netflix. But he thinks that, that he wasn't given enough credit for the championship victories. He also feels that he was unfairly portrayed in the situation where he wouldn't go back into the game when Phil Jackson draws up the play for Tony Kukoc instead of Scottie Pippen when Michael Jordan's not there. He also just has an issue with the way that Michael Jordan tried to seemingly put himself on a pedestal and show that it was basically not a documentary about the team, but a documentary about Michael Jordan. And that's essentially what it was. But I still thought it was fascinating. And I don't really look down or look at Pippen as any less because of the documentary, because I know that for a fact that Michael Jordan wouldn't have had these rings had it not be for Scottie Pippen becoming a Chicago Bull. So what are your thoughts on this quarrel between Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen? And do you ever see it being resolved?
The looks on their faces right there in that graphic you showed certainly kind of says it all right there. They're like, don't talk to me anymore. And Michael Jordan says, wait, I'm waiting for my next drink. Both these guys have their beef, and they have very legitimate beefs, to be quite honest with you. One wants it well done. The other one's a little rare on the rare side.
Can't have the same steak.
Exactly. You can't have the same steak at the same time.
Yeah.
Especially if you want yours cooked better or longer.
Yeah.
So, Michael Jordan, 15 NBA seasons, Scottie Pippen, 17. But here's where the disparities get really, really different. Playoffs played, Scottie Pippen, 16, Jordan, 13. Michael Jordan, 14 All-Star games, Scottie Pippen, 7. So is there a little saltiness going on between Scottie Pippen and the fact that he did more to create Jordan's plays for him by doing the layups and, the little pooches from inside in the passing lanes. And don't get me wrong, back in the day,
covering covering the best player on the other team.
Exactly. And doing absolutely what he needed to do, what his role was designed to do. It wasn't as if there was no way to get out of Michael Jordan's path, because Michael Jordan was on his own. He was on his own plane, to be honest with you. And you're right. That documentary was all about Michael Jordan. Well, that's what it was supposed to be about. That's why it's called
The
Last
Dance. I thought
Dance.
it was supposed to be about.
I could be wrong. And, Scottie Pippen certainly does have a case, though. But when they got a guy named Charles Oakley involved in the conversation, who was on a podcast recently, stating that this relationship is a lost cause. It sounds like a lost cause. And obviously, could it ever be fixed? No, it's over. So Charles Oakley's going on the Bill Simmons podcast and having this conversation. I think it was over from almost the get-go, and it wasn't even great then. So a lot of things to say about Oakley and what his feelings were in regards to what he recognized as a part of that relationship dynamic between Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan. I just think it's a lost cause. I don't think they're going to ever make any amends to it. I hope they do. I do personally.
Especially after Scottie Pippen's book, man. Scottie Pippen comes out with this book, Unguarded. And I'm just like, Scottie. Scottie just continues to make himself look bad in the media by going out and calling Phil Jackson a racist, making all these crazy allegations against Michael Jordan in the book. If you haven't read it or haven't read excerpts from it, I encourage you to go and at least read some of those. His wife, Larsa Pippen, has been, pipping him around. She's been spotted out with rappers, Future. It's just Scottie Pippen has just been dragged through the mud ever since he's been retired. And apparently
he's not even helping his own cause either.
Yeah, he's not.
What are you doing?
He won't shut up. He just will not shut up. Like, Scottie, be quiet, bro. We already think you're a legend. Like, you're just tarnishing your legacy at this point. And it really is unfortunate. But the fact that these two guys can't be in the same room and they're not friends is astonishing to me, because they accomplished so much together. And you would think that guys that have reached that type of pinnacle of success twice, mind you, one time before, then coming back and running at it again and doing it again, you would think that that's like a lifelong bond that can never be broken. But apparently it can when documentaries and books get involved.
You got it.
Absolutely. All right, man. Real quick, let's show the meme of the day. And I like this one because we talked extensively about this game. It's the Bills-Chiefs game, the greatest game to ever be played. and and a guy goes on. Some guy, Trill Withers says, "There's nothing more Josh Allen could have done." Right, and that's a good part. That's a good point. But at the bottom, somebody comments, "He could have called heads." He could have. We forget during that game, Josh Allen was the one that had the coin toss, and he called heads, and it was tails. If he would have called he called tails, and it was heads. If he would have called heads, then maybe the outcome would have been different. And maybe
the Bills would have played defense. It would have been different either. Or maybe they would have squib kicked it, and that would have been okay too.
Yeah,
but no.
Yeah.
3 strikes, you're out. Wait, this isn't baseball. Close enough.
All right, real quick, man. Let them know where they can find you at, Rudy.
You can find me at Rude Dog Reyes on Twitter. You can go to LinkedIn. You can find me at therudedogshow.com. And I want to surprise something here, Barry, on the show. Stay tuned. I'm going to try to schedule Jermichael Finley, former Green Bay Packers, as we're on the Packers, to come on to the show. So I'll certainly stay in touch with that and keep everybody informed as to where that's at. And we'll let you know.
Y'all heard it here first. Jermichael Finley will be on the show, so we're excited. Y'all can find me on Twitter at Radio Barry Long. You can find me on IG at BarryLong_2 and Facebook at Barry Long _II. Remember, stay focused, stay motivated, stay inspired, and remember, you're capable of doing anything. So go out and do it. We'll see you tomorrow.